The city of Velora was a place of wonders. Tall glass towers to touch the sky, floating cars moved like silver birds, and lights shone even in the darkest hours. People wore shiny clothes, their faces always busy with important work, but none of them looked down at the streets below. On those forgotten streets lived Miran, a beggar who owned nothing but a torn brown coat and an old metal cup. Every day, Miran sat near the gates of Zerakan Tower, where the richest people in the galaxy held their meetings. He would quietly ask for food or coins, but people passed by without even seeing him. Miran was not always a beggar. Once he had a small shop selling old machines. But when big companies came, his shop was crushed under taxes and debts. He lost everything, his shop, his home, and even his family who left to find a better life. Now, Miran only had his pride. He never begged loudly. He never chased after people. He just sat and waited. One bright morning, when the sky was clear and the air was cool, a black hover car stopped near Miran. This was strange. No car ever stopped for him. The door opened, and out stepped a man wearing a dark blue suit with silver lines. His face was sharp, his hair smooth, and his eyes were cold like ice. It was Lord Venner, the richest man not just in Velora, but in many worlds. Miran looked up, confused. He had seen Venner's face on giant screens. Venner owned everything: ships, factories, even cities. What was a man like that doing here, standing in front of a beggar? Venner smiled, but it was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that made people feel small. He looked down at Miran and said, "Do you know who I am?" Miran nodded slowly. "You are Lord Venner." "Good," Venner said. "And do you know why I am here?" Miran shook his head. "No, sir." Venner took a small silver card from his pocket. "I am tired, Miran. Tired of power. Tired of this endless game of wealth. I want to give it all away." Miran blinked. He thought it was a joke. Rich men did not give away their empires to beggars. "I'm serious," Venner continued. "Everything. I own my ships, my credits, my companies. I want to give them to you." Miran's hands shook. "Why me? There are many people more important than me." Venner crouched down so his face was close to Miran's. "That's exactly why. You are no one. You are forgotten. You have no chains. You are free." Miran did not understand, but, "I don't know how to run an empire." Venner laughed softly. "You'll learn, or you won't. It doesn't matter. What matters is that from this moment, it is yours." He placed the silver card in Miran's hand. It was cold and heavy. "This is a master key. With it, you can control my entire empire. Go to Zerakan Tower and show them this card. They will bow to you." Miran was speechless. This kind of thing did not happen in real life. He looked at Venner, searching his face for a sign of a trick. But Venner only smiled that cold smile and stood up. "I have only one rule for you," Venner said as he walked back to his car. "Never ask me why I am doing this." The door closed, and the black hover car flew away, leaving Miran sitting on the cold ground, holding a key that could change his life. For a long time, Miran did not move. People passed by, busy with their lives, not knowing that the richest man had just given away his empire to a beggar. Miran looked at the silver card, feeling its weight, not just in his hand but in his heart. Was this real? Was this a dream? Finally, curiosity pushed him to his feet. He dusted off his torn coat and walked toward Zerakan Tower. The guards at the gate crossed their spears to block him. "No beggars allowed," one of them said sharply. Miran showed them the silver card. The moment they saw it, their faces changed. The spears were lifted, and one of the guards spoke into a small device. "Master key detected. Inform the director." The gates opened wide for Miran, something that had never happened in his life. He walked inside, his heart pounding. The building was filled with polished floors, shining lights, and people dressed in perfect clothes. But now, all their eyes were on him. A woman in a red dress approached. "Sir, please follow me. The council is waiting." Miran followed her into a large round room. There, sitting around a golden table, were 12 men and women who managed Venner's empire. They looked at Miran with serious faces. "Do you have the master key?" the oldest man asked. Miran showed them the card. The man nodded. "As per Lord Venner's command, all authority is now yours. Do you accept?" Miran opened his mouth, but no words came out. His mind was spinning. How could this be real? How could a beggar become the owner of an empire in a single day? He thought of all the days he had been ignored, all the times people acted like he didn't exist. And now here he was, standing where only the powerful were allowed. I accept," Miran said, his voice trembling. The council stood up and bowed. "Welcome, Master Miran. The empire is yours." Miran felt like the walls were closing in. He was now the owner of fleets, cities, planets. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered a warning. Why would Venner give all this to a beggar? What was the price? But for now, Miran was too overwhelmed to think. He had crossed a door that should have stayed closed. And beyond that door, his fate was waiting. The next morning, Miran opened his eyes in a place he had never imagined. The soft bed under him felt like a cloud. The walls of the room were made of smooth glass, showing a wide view of the city of Vellora. He was no longer on the cold streets. He was in Zerikon Tower, on the top floor, where only the rulers stayed. A soft voice spoke from the wall. "Good morning, Master Miran. Today's schedule is ready. Shall I begin?" Miran sat up slowly. "Who are you?" "I am Lyra, your personal assistant AI. I will help you manage the empire." Miran shook his head. It all still felt like a strange dream. Just yesterday, he was a beggar ignored by all. Now he was called Master Miran by machines and people alike. "Lyra," he said, still unsure. "Tell me, is this really happening?" "Yes, Master Miran. You are now the owner of Lord Venner's entire empire. The control is fully transferred. The galaxy knows you as the new leader of Venner Corp." Miran stood up and walked to the wide window. The city below looked so small. He remembered sitting on the ground, watching people rush past him. Now those same people looked up to him, but from a great distance. "What is on my schedule today?" Miran asked. "You have a meeting with the council at 10. After that, a tour of the starport, and later, an interview with the Galactic News Network." Miran sighed. "I don't know how to do any of this." "You will learn, Master Miran," Lyra said calmly. "Would you like me to guide you?" Miran nodded. "Yes, please." After getting dressed in a simple but fine black suit, Miran was taken to the council chamber. This time, the guards saluted him. The council members, who had once ruled parts of Venner's empire, now waited silently for his words. The oldest member, Director Haven, stood up. "Master Miran, the empire's daily operations are running smoothly. We await your orders for the next phase." Miran looked at the table filled with maps, charts, and data screens. He felt lost. He was no businessman or leader. He was just a man who had been given too much. "I trust your experience," Miran said carefully. "I want the people to be treated fairly. No more crushing the small ones." There was a brief silence in the room. Then Haven smiled slightly. "Understood, Master Miran. Your will is noted." After the meeting, Miran was taken to the Vellora starport, the largest shipyard in the galaxy. Giant spaceships floated like islands in the sky, being repaired and built. Workers in blue suits bowed as he passed. "This all belongs to me now?" Miran asked. "Yes, Master Miran," his guide replied. "These ships travel to 100 worlds under your flag." Miran touched the railing, feeling the cold metal. It was hard to believe. Just days ago, he didn't even own a home. Now stars themselves seemed to bow to him, but in his heart, a strange unease was growing. Why had Venner chosen him? Why did the richest man in the galaxy give away his empire without reason? Later that evening, Moran sat in his new office staring at the city lights. Lyra's voice returned. "Master Moran, you have a visitor. Who is it?" "He calls himself Oris and says it is important." "Let him in." The door opened, and a tall man in a simple gray robe entered. His face was thin, and his eyes were deep, like he knew too many secrets. "Master Moran," Oris said, bowing. "I bring you a message." "From who?" "From the one who gave you all this, Lord Venner." Moran's eyes narrowed. "What is the message?" Oris walked to the window, looking at the stars. "You are now the Emperor of Trade, the owner of fleets, factories, and cities. But with this gift comes a chain that you cannot see yet." Moran stood up. "What are you talking about?" "Venner's empire is built on an old pact. A pact made with beings from the Void Realm. They gave him wealth, power, and influence. But in return, they needed a soul to take his place when his time was up." Moran felt cold. "And now, that soul is me?" Oris nodded slowly. "Yes. When you accepted the Master Key, you agreed to the pact. Venner has passed his burden to you." Moran's fists clenched. "He didn't tell me that." "That was part of the deal," Oris said. "You have 7 cycles before the Void comes to collect." Moran's mind raced. He had thought his life was changing for the better. But now it seemed he had been trapped in a game he didn't even understand. "Is there a way out?" he asked. "There's always a way," Oris said. "But it is not easy. The Void does not let go of its promises." Moran looked at the stars, feeling smaller than ever. He had been given an empire, but at what cost? The power felt like a heavy chain around his neck. "Why are you telling me this?" Moran asked. Oris smiled faintly. "Because Venner did not tell you, and because sometimes, even in a cold galaxy, truth must be spoken." With that, Oris turned and left, leaving Moran alone in the grand office. Moran sat down, his mind heavy with thoughts. He had once dreamed of a better life, but now he stood on a tower built over a hidden trap. The question was no longer about riches, it was about survival. He was no longer just a beggar. But he was not yet a true ruler. The real fight was coming. Moran could not sleep that night. He sat in the grand room of Zerikon Tower, staring at the silver Master Key in his hand. It felt heavier now. He remembered Oris's words, a pact with the Void Realm. The thought of being trapped in a deal he didn't understand made his stomach twist. He stood up and looked out at the city of Vellora. The people down there had no idea that their new ruler had just learned his life had a countdown. 7 cycles. That's all the time he had. "Lyra," Moran called. "Yes, Master Moran?" The eye responded. "Who is Oris? Why was he allowed to enter this building?" Lyra replied, "Oris is not registered in any official records. However, Lord Venner's private system lists him as a pact messenger. He holds a special code that allowed him access." Moran frowned. "Where is this code coming from?" "From a vault on Carnith Moon, Master Moran. It is a secure site. Owned by Venner Corp, but marked as restricted access, even to the Council." Moran's eyes narrowed. "Prepare my ship. I want to go there, now." "Understood, Master Moran. The ship will be ready in 20 minutes. Carnith Moon was far from Vellora, orbiting a cold gas giant. The moon was rocky, with sharp cliffs and a dark sky. It was not a place for business or pleasure. It was a place for secrets. Moran's ship, the Horizon Wing, landed softly near an old metal structure built into a mountainside. 2 security bots met him at the entrance. "Access code," they demanded. Moran held up the Master Key. The bot scanned it and stepped aside as he entered the vault. The air grew cold. The walls were lined with strange symbols. The lights flickered, not like the clean white lights of Zeracon Tower, but with a faint green glow. It felt as if the walls themselves were watching him. A voice echoed in the chamber. "Welcome, successor." It was Horus. He stood in the middle of the vault, beside a large machine that pulsed with dark energy. "I knew you would come," Horus said, his eyes calm. "Tell me everything." Miran demanded. "No more secrets," Horus nodded. "Very well. Many years ago, Venner was not the man you know. He was a merchant, struggling to survive. One day, he found this vault. It was built by ancient beings called the Void Architects. They offered him a deal riches beyond imagination, in exchange for a soul when the time came." Miran listened carefully. "Venner accepted," Horus continued. "He built his empire using the knowledge and gifts from the Void. But the pact was clear. He could enjoy his power, but when his time was over, another soul must take his place. Venner searched for a way to escape his fate. He found none. So he looked for someone to pass the chain to. That person was you." Miran's fists clenched. "He chose me because I was easy to use." "Yes," Horus said honestly. "You were invisible. No one would notice a beggar becoming a ruler overnight. It made the transition smoother." Miran stepped closer to the machine. "What is this?" "This is the Void Anchor," Horus explained. "It connects Venner's empire to the Void Realm. It feeds on the life of the soul who holds the empire's master key. That soul is now you." Miran's heart pounded. "How do I break the chain?" Horus smiled faintly. "Destroy the anchor." Miran looked at the machine. It was massive, humming with dark energy. "If I destroy it, what happens?" "The link to the void will be broken," Horus said. "But so will the foundation of Venner's empire. The wealth, the control, the power it will all vanish." Miran stood silent. He had been given an empire, but it was built on a cursed bond. To free himself, he would have to destroy the very thing that gave him power. Horus placed a small device in Miran's hand. "This is a disruptor core. Place it in the heart of the anchor, and it will sever the connection. But be warned, those who benefit from the Empire's power will not let you do this easily." Miran closed his hand around the device. "Why are you helping me?" Horus's eyes softened. "Because I was once like you, chosen as a replacement. But I escaped. I have lived in the shadows, waiting for someone brave enough to break the cycle." Miran nodded. "Then it ends now." As Miran approached the anchor, alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the vault. Unauthorized activity detected. A mechanical voice announced. Back in Valora, the council had detected Miran's move. The Empire's defense systems had activated. From the vault entrance, heavy footsteps echoed. Security droids, armed and ready, marched in. "They will try to stop you," Horus warned. Miran's mind raced. He was not a soldier. He had no weapon. But he had something more powerful, a will to survive, and the truth on his side. "Lyra," Miran whispered into his device. "Yes, Master Miran." "Shut down the security bots. Code, override Delta 1. There was a pause. Code accepted. Disabling units. The droids froze, their weapons dropping. Miran quickly moved to the anchor. He found the core panel and inserted the disruptor. "Core," the machine trembled. 5 minutes until disruption, Horus said, but the danger was not over. Through the main screen, Miran saw that ships were approaching Karlith Moon. The Council was sending forces to stop him. Horus turned to him. "Me need time," Miran thought fast. "Lyra, activate defense turrets around the vault. Buy us 5 minutes." "Understood, Master Miran." Outside, automated turrets emerged from the rocky cliffs, firing at the incoming ships. Explosions filled the dark sky. Inside the vault, the anchor's glow began to dim. The humming sound grew louder, shaking the ground. What will happen when It breaks? Miran asked. The link to the void will collapse. You will be free, but the Empire's power structures will crumble. Miran took a deep breath. He did not want to rule a cursed empire. He did not want to live in a golden cage while his soul was slowly claimed. I'd rather be a free beggar than a chained king, Miran said firmly. Suddenly, the anchor emitted a blinding light. The machine cracked, releasing waves of energy. The symbols on the walls faded. The air became clear, no longer heavy with the void's presence. It is done, Oris whispered. Miran looked at the remains of the anchor. The curse was broken, but outside, the Empire was already feeling the shock. Bank systems crashed, ships lost control, factories powered by the void's energy shut down. Miran had just toppled the richest empire in the galaxy. He had no ships, no money, and no power, but he had his soul, and that was more valuable than any throne. Miran stood in the middle of the broken vault. The void anchor was destroyed. The air felt lighter, but the silence was heavy. Oris looked at him with a calm face, but Miran knew this was only the beginning. You are free from the pact now, Oris said, but the void will not give up so easily. It will come for you. Miran's heart was still pounding. He had destroyed the machine that fed on his soul, but the Empire's systems were collapsing. In the distance, he could see ships crashing into each other. Factories went dark. Communications were breaking. Lyra, what's happening to the Empire? Miran asked through his cum. Master Miran, the core energy lines have failed. Bank networks are frozen. Trade routes are in chaos. The Council is trying to regain control, but they are losing. Miran took a deep breath. The Empire was built on lies. Now those lies were falling apart. Suddenly, the ground shook. A deep, strange sound filled the vault. It was not from machines. It felt like a whisper, but loud enough to make his bones tremble. They are here, Oris said, his voice serious. From the shadows of the vault, dark shapes started to appear. They had no clear form, just black mist with glowing red eyes. They floated, twisting in the air, and their whispers grew louder. The void shadows, Oris said. They were waiting for the anchor to break. Now they want to take you directly. Miran stepped back, but Oris grabbed his shoulder. You can't run. You must stand your ground. Show them you are not their pawn. The shadows moved closer. The temperature dropped. Miran's breath turned to mist. You broke the pact, the shadows whispered. You owe us. Miran felt their cold touch in his mind. His thoughts became heavy. Doubts and fears tried to flood him. You are nothing but a beggar. You do not belong here, the whispers said. Miran clenched his fists. His whole life people had ignored him. His whole life he was told he was nothing. But now these dark beings wanted him to kneel again. I may be a beggar, Miran said loudly, but I am not yours to own. The vault trembled. The shadows screamed in anger, but Miran stood firm. His will was the only shield he had, and it was enough. The red eyes started to blink and fade. One by one, the shadows vanished, their whispers turning into silent dust. Air became warm again. Oris smiled. You did it, Oris said. You faced them, and you won. Miran felt weak, but a strange peace filled his heart. For the first time, he was not trapped by fear or power. He was truly free. But outside, chaos was spreading. Lyra, status report. Miran asked. Master Miran, the Council is trying to activate emergency controls, but the systems are unresponsive. The public is panicking. Without the void energy, the Empire is falling. Miran knew the truth now. The Empire was never meant to stand. It was a castle built on sand. But he also knew that people would suffer if there was no order. I need to speak to the people, Miran said. There's a broadcast tower nearby, Oris said. We can reach the core worlds from there. The Karnath broadcast tower was an old structure, but its signal was powerful. Miran stood in front of a large screen, while Oris adjusted the controls. "Ready when you are," Oris said. Miran took a deep breath. The screen lit up, showing his face to billions of people across the galaxy. He imagined how strange this must look to them, a beggar who became an emperor, now speaking as everything crumbled. "People of the galaxy," Miran began, "this empire was built on lies. Its power came from a dark pact that stole freedom from us all. I broke that chain. I destroyed the machine that fed on our lives. But in doing so, I have broken the walls that kept us blind." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Today, the systems you depended on are falling. But this is not the end. This is a new beginning. We don't need cursed machines or false riches to survive. We have hands, we have minds. We can build something better." The screen flickered as the signal fought through damaged networks, but Miran's voice stayed clear. "I was a beggar, forgotten by the powerful. But today, I stand as your equal, not your ruler. The empire is gone, but the people remain. And it is up to us to decide what comes next." The transmission ended. Oris looked at him with respect. "You gave them hope." Miran nodded. "Hope is the only true power left." But the battle was not over. Lyra's voice returned. "Master, Miran, the Council has sent a fleet to capture you. They are calling you a traitor who destroyed the galaxy's greatest empire." Miran's face hardened. "Let them come. I have nothing to lose now," Oris smiled. "Good, because we have a small army of our own. Scavengers, outcasts, and workers who believe in you. They are ready to fight." Miran's heart lifted. He had no fleets of golden ships, but he had people who knew struggle. People who would not bow to false rulers. "Then we fight for our freedom," Miran said. He looked at the star map. The Council's fleet was moving fast. They had advanced warships, but Miran had courage, and sometimes that was enough. "Prepare the Horizon Wing. We will meet them in space." Oris nodded. "This will not be an easy battle," Miran smiled. "I never want it easy. I want what's right." As the ship engines roared, Miran stood on the bridge, ready to face the storm. The void's chains were broken, but now the chains of greed and power had to be shattered as well. The beggar had been given an empire. Now he would fight to give it back to the people. The stars of space shone quietly, but in their light, a storm was coming. Miran stood on the deck of the Horizon Wing, his eyes fixed on the large screen showing the enemy fleet. Dozens of Council warships were moving in tight formation, their weapons ready. They were fast, powerful, and made for only one purpose: control. Beside him stood Oris, calm as always, though even he knew the danger. "They want you to surrender," Oris said. "The Council has sent a message. If you give yourself up, they will spare your life." Miran looked at the screen, seeing the cold metal of the ships. "They're not coming to spare lives. They're coming to put chains back on the people." Oris nodded. "True, but you still have a choice, Miran. You can surrender and live, or fight and risk everything." Miran was silent for a moment. He thought of his past begging on the streets, ignored by all. He thought of Venner, who had tried to sell his soul for a few more years of power. And he thought of the people who had believed in him when he spoke through the broadcast. "I'd rather fight and lose," Miran said, "than surrender and live as a puppet." Oris smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." Lyra's voice came through the comm system. "Master Miran, our allies are ready." Miran turned to the screen. It was not a fleet of shining warships that waited for him. It was a group of old cargo ships, scavenger crafts, and repair drones. Their hulls were patched with scrap metal, their engines loud and shaky. But inside those ships were people who believed in freedom. "Connect me to all of them," Miran ordered. Soon, hundreds of small screens filled the bridge. Faces of men and women from forgotten worlds appeared. They were miners, traders, and workers. They were not soldiers, but their eyes burned with determination. This is not a war for land or riches, Miran spoke. This is a fight to decide. Who controls our future? The council thinks they own us. They believe power comes from ships and credits. But we will show them that true power comes from people who refuse to kneel. A cheer spread through the screens. It was not loud, but it was filled with heart. Let's make them hear us, Miran said. The battle began with a sudden flash. The council warships moved like sharks, fast and deadly, their lasers cutting through space. Miran's fleet of scavenger ships scattered, dodging and weaving between shots. They didn't have strong weapons, but they had clever minds. Lyra, activate the decoy drones, Miran ordered. Small drones shot out from cargo holds, releasing smoke screens and false signals. The council ships, confused by the sudden burst of signals, slowed down, trying to find real targets. Now! Miran shouted. The scavenger ships responded, firing makeshift missiles made from mining tools. They didn't do much damage, but they were enough to break the council's formation. One council cruiser turned sharply to chase a small freighter. That's when Miran saw his chance. Bring us behind that cruiser, he commanded. The horizon wing moved quickly, getting close to the cruiser's blind spot. Miran fired a grappler, attaching their ship to the enemy's hull. What are you doing? Oris asked, surprised. We're going to board them, Miran said. Let's see how brave their captains are when they have to look us in the eye. The docking was rough, but it worked. Miran, Oris, and a small group of volunteers entered the council cruiser. The hallways were cold and silent, except for the alarms. Council guards appeared, dressed in silver armor, their guns pointed at Miran's. Group, surrender now. A guard shouted. Miran stepped forward, unarmed, but his voice was strong. We are not your enemies. We are the people you forgot. Look around you. Your empire is falling. You can fight for those who chained you, or stand with us and be free. The guards looked at each other, uncertain. For a moment, it seemed they would fire. But one of them, a young woman, lowered her weapon. I was a minor before the council. Took my world, she said. I'm tired of serving those who never cared. One by one, the guards lowered their guns. The ship was now in Miran's control. Broadcast this. Miran told Lyra. Let the galaxy see that the council's power is breaking. Across the stars, the message spread like fire. Other ships, seeing the council lose control, began to rise. Workers on council planets started to protest. Small rebellions sparked in places where people had long been silent. But the council was not done. A massive flagship, larger than any ship in the fleet, appeared on the radar. It was the Sovereign's Fist, the personal ship of Director Haven. Prepare all weapons, Lyra warned. They are coming straight for us. Miran knew they couldn't win in a head-to-head battle. But he had an idea. Oris is the Sovereign's Fist still connected to the old void systems? Yes, Oris said. It runs on backup void energy. Why? If we can overload their systems, we can shut them down, Miran said. That's risky, Oris warned. It could destroy us too. Miran smiled. Then we better do it right. The horizon wing sped towards the Sovereign's Fist. As they got close, Miran sent a pulse code into the old void channels. The code triggered the unstable energy still hidden in the ship's core. Suddenly, the Sovereign's Fist began to shake. Lights flickered. The ship's massive cannons went silent. What's happening? Haven shouted from the command deck. The void systems are collapsing. An officer replied. Miran's voice came through their speakers. Your empire is built on stolen power. Now it ends. With a final pulse, the Sovereign's Fist shut down completely. The once great symbol of control floated powerless in space. Across the battlefield, the remaining council ships surrendered. The fight was over. Miran had won. On the deck of the Horizon Wing, people cheered and hugged. They had done the impossible. They had stood against an empire and broken its chains. Oris looked at Miran with pride. "You didn't just fight, Miran. You changed the course of history." Miran smiled, tired but content. "It's not about owning an empire. It's about making sure no one else has to be a pawn again." As the sun rose over the nearest planet, Miran knew the galaxy was watching. But this time, it wasn't watching a beggar or a ruler. It was watching a man who had chosen to fight, not for himself, but for everyone. The real work was just beginning. The battle over the stars was over, but Miran knew that true peace was far away. The destruction of the Void Anchor had freed him from its chains, but the dark shadow of the Void Realm still loomed near. It was not just a fight for planets or power anymore. It was a war that reached beyond what most could understand. Miran stood on the deck of the Horizon Wing, looking out at the swirling colors of space. The stars seemed to shine brighter after the recent battles, but hidden among them was a strange darkness. Oris, always near, spoke quietly. "Miran, the Void is preparing its final move. It will send its own forces through the cracks we made. These are not just ships or machines. They are creatures of shadow and mind, born from the Void itself." Miran's eyes narrowed. "How do we fight something like that?" Oris smiled faintly. "With what we have always had: our will to live, our hope, and our unity." Miran called together his closest allies, the scavengers, engineers, and rebels who had stood with him through everything. They gathered in the ship's meeting room, faces full of worry but also determination. "We face enemies beyond our world," Miran began. "These creatures come from a place where light does not exist, and time bends in strange ways. But they have one weakness: they fear what they cannot control." A young pilot named Nilo raised his hand. "How do we stop shadows that can enter our minds?" "We've already seen how they try to break us," Miran nodded. "We protect each other. We stay strong. And we use the technology we have learned from the Void, turned against it." Oris explained the plan. "We will enter the Void Realm ourselves. It is dangerous. The laws of physics do not work the same there. But if we can find the Void Architect's original core, we can shut down their power forever." The room fell silent. No one wanted to go into the unknown, but all knew it was necessary. The Horizon Wing, now repaired and equipped with special shields, moved toward a strange rift in space, a tier between realities. The colors twisted like smoke, and the stars disappeared beyond the swirling fog dot as the ship crossed the boundary. The crew felt a strange weight in their minds. Time seemed to slow. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision. Miran stood firm, gripping the rail. "Stay focused. Remember who we are." The Void Realm was a place of silence and cold. The Horizon Wing's lights barely pierced the darkness. Strange shapes moved in the distance, whispers of creatures watching, waiting. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. Shadow beasts attacked, claws scraping the hull. The crew fought bravely, using energy nets and light bursts to push back. Miran gave orders calmly. "Keep moving forward. The core is close." After hours in the dark realm, they found the source, a massive black structure pulsing with dark energy. The Void Core. Oris connected to the core with a special device. "This is it. If we disable this, the Void's power will collapse." As Oris worked, the shadows attacked more fiercely. The crew formed a circle around him, fighting off creatures. With makeshift weapons and courage. Nilo shouted, "We won't let you take us." Miran fought alongside the others, his strength coming from the people around him. Finally, Oris triggered the device. The Void Core exploded in a burst of light that shattered the darkness. The shadows screamed and disappeared like smoke in the wind. The laws of reality began to return. Time moved normally again. The Horizon Wing slipped out of the Void Realm. Safe. Back in normal space, the crew cheered. The dark threat was ended. Miran looked at his friends. People who once had nothing but now had everything to protect. We have won, Miran said softly, not just for us, but for everyone who ever felt powerless. Oris smiled. You have truly become a leader. Miran's eyes shone. I'm still just a man who once begged on the streets, but now I fight for all who need hope. The galaxy was watching. The beggar who had been given an empire and faced hell itself was now a symbol of courage and freedom. After the defeat of the Void Core and the banishing of the dark shadows, the galaxy began to breathe again. Miran stood on the bridge of the horizon wing, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly before him. The battles had been hard, the losses many, but something new had been born, a chance for hope. Miran remembered the day Lord Venner had given him the Silver Master Key. Back then, he was just a beggar, lost and broken. Now he was the leader of people who believed in a better future. But Miran knew one thing clearly: power was not the true empire. The council was broken. Many of its members were captured or fled. The great fleets were no more. But the people still lived on hundreds of planets, in cities big and small. The real challenge was how to rebuild without the chains of greed and fear. Miran held a meeting with his closest friends and allies. Oris, Nilo, and others sat around a round table inside the Unity Hall, a place where no one was above another. We cannot become what we fought against, Miran said softly. Our empire will not be built on power or fear. It will be built on trust, kindness, and respect. Nilo smiled. But how do we start? People are scared. Many want order and rules. Miran nodded. We start by listening. We include everyone, even those who once supported the council. No one is too small to be heard. Oris added, we also need new laws, simple laws that protect freedom and justice. Laws that help people grow, not control them. The group agreed. Plans were made to send ambassadors to planets, to listen and learn what the people truly needed. The old empire's wealth would be shared fairly. Factories would make tools for building homes, not weapons. As days passed, Miran traveled to many worlds. He saw cities still broken but full of hope. People working together, helping neighbors, sharing resources. He saw children laughing in playgrounds, gardens growing in once empty lands. On one small planet called Leora, Miran met an old woman named Mira. She had once been a teacher and now helped orphans. She looked at Miran with gentle eyes. You have done what many thought impossible, she said. But remember, true strength is in the heart. Miran smiled. Thank you, Mira. I will carry that with me. Mira nodded. And when you feel lost, remember who you are. A man who rose from nothing to lead with kindness. Back on Velora, the city that had once ignored Miran now watched him as a symbol of change. The towers still touched the sky, but now there. Windows showed faces of all kinds: workers, artists, children, and elders. Miran walked the streets sometimes, wearing simple clothes. People recognized him, but no one bowed or feared. Instead, they smiled and greeted him like a neighbor. One day, a young boy came up to Miran. Are you really the man who was a beggar? He asked. Miran knelt down. Yes, I was. The boy's eyes were wide. How did you do it? Miran smiled. I never stopped believing that even the smallest person can change the world. You can do that too. The boy nodded, inspired. As the years passed, Miran's empire was not a kingdom or a throne. It was a community of worlds working together. Trade, art, and knowledge flowed freely. Wars became stories of the past. Miran knew the battle with the void was over, but the battle for peace was forever. It was a path of small steps and big hearts. One evening, Miran stood on the balcony of Unity Hall, watching the stars. Oris joined him quietly. You have done well, Miran, Oris said. Miran looked at the sky. I was given a heavy gift, Oris, but I chose to make it light. Oris smiled. You have created a true empire, The empire of humanity's spirit. Miran nodded. That is all any man can hope for. And so, the story of a beggar who was given a rich man's empire, but not told of the hell behind it, became a legend. A story told to children, to remind them that no matter where you start, your choices and heart can build a better world. Miran's name was no longer one of power or fear. It was a name of hope, courage, and freedom. And in the endless stars. That was the greatest empire of all.